So today I want to do a twist on what will be a no-nonsense game review, something short and to the point. I want to briefly talk about the Nvidia 3000 series and Big Navi. I've just seen so many clickbait videos since Nvidia's announcement on the 1st of September, and often they start off by trying to scare people into watching them, talking about, oh, you're going to have massive bottlenecks and things like this. So let's talk about the facts and then the questions I would ask myself when considering a purchase. So let's talk about the facts about Big Navi first. So other than a few rumors, we've had no idea what Big Navi will be capable of or what its specs will be. AMD are being unusually quiet about it all at the moment, which is either a sign they have nothing that can compete, or they're very confident in their product. So Big Navi rumors talking about 16 gigs of RAM, a lower price point of around $549 in response to the 3000 series. People are talking about performance anywhere from 50% above the 2080 Ti. Other people are saying between the 3070 and 3080, but we have no evidence of this and no way to know how the ray tracing is going to run on the cards. But we can at least assume they're going to be called the 6000 series due to this fortnight event that AMD ran themselves. But those are rumors and we have nothing else to go on. So that's pretty much the end of the topic, really. In an ideal world, AMD will have something that's comparable to the 3080 because competition is good for consumers, it keeps the prices down, encourages bigger steps in tech each generation while they're trying to compete with each other. But that's where we are with AMD until we get more information. And frankly, by the time this video's up, there probably will be that little bit of extra information or a little rumor. Now for Nvidia, well, we know the specs, at least on paper. The only true comparison we've seen for frame rates is in Doom Eternal, which runs on an incredibly well-made and tightly coded engine, so it's difficult to gauge how that will perform in other, less well-rounded engines. And really we need to start seeing some reviews to see what the 3080 and 3070 can actually do. There's been some leaks suggesting an average of 38% improvement over a 2080 Ti for the 3080, or 68% compared to the 2080 original release. Still, we're waiting on those game comparisons, which we're just not seeing yet, so the wait goes on. I have to agree with some of the other tech sites though. It's really interesting to see how horrified we all were with the 2080 pricing on release, but in comparison we're quite liking the 3080 price, and that's probably because we associate it with the much higher priced 2080 Ti. And it's fun to see how consumer attitudes change though, and Nvidia must be loving it. Above all else, you need to consider that there are some rumors still that, you know, there's going to be at least Ti variants around the corner and possibly supers down the line. They're talking about double RAM variants of the 3080 and 3070. And the 3080 20GB variant is apparently being leaked on roadmaps, but you know, it's difficult to say if that's a definite thing. But speculation is that these will be announced after the release of Big Navi to throw AMD off its game. But at the same time, Nvidia, in my mind, will have to be cautious not to enrage the fan base with an early price drop or, you know, a very cheap Ti variant. So the last thing I'd like to talk about is the questions that I ask myself when I'm thinking about buying a new graphics card. So have a think about this when you're thinking, which should you buy? Because that's entirely dependent on what you want and what you need, and if you're willing to wait. So do you need the card soon? Because unless there's some impressive announcement from AMD in the next week, we can assume that Big Navi is at least a few months away from release. So if you're wanting something within the next month or two, it's probably going to be Nvidia. Which is going to be the most powerful? Well, the 3090, if you can stomach the cost. Between the 3080 and Big Navi, well, it's unclear at this time. Some people seem to think that 3080 will definitely be better, but we can't know for certain until we see some independent reviews and, frankly, just some details on Big Navi. Bang for buck, from what we know right now, 3070, if you're on a budget, is going to be good bang for buck if that's, you know, just over the performance of a 2080 Ti. Or the 3080 if you can splash out, because the performance gains there look pretty impressive. AMD have quite a habit of trying to undercut Nvidia on price, so watch this space. Will I be bottlenecked? So I see a few videos scaremongering about this, If you're worried about a few FPS difference between having a Ryzen processor and an Intel processor because of a 100 MHz difference in boost core, then why are you even watching this video? You clearly should be buying a 3090 and the top-end Intel processor and a £500 motherboard and 64 gigs of RAM. You know, you want every top part in the market. But on a more serious note, if you're running a 4-core CPU, which has a max core clock speed of 4.1 GHz, then yes, you're probably going to be bottlenecked. Heavens knows I was bottlenecked with my old 3570K with an overclock of 4.5 GHz. So you'll likely fare better than me with a more modern 4-core CPU that has 8 threads, but you know, that's on you at the end of the day. Either you run with a bottleneck in one part of your system or you run with a bottleneck in another. Something is going to bottleneck something in most systems. It's inescapable. But if it's a couple of frames per second, what are you crying over? Buyer's remorse is another big one for me that I always think about. If you're really worried about buyer's remorse and thinking about possible double memory variants coming out in the next few months, then you'll have to wait to buy it and hope they exist. There's just no guarantees when they're going to be released if they do exist. They probably do, because, you know, there's already been leaks from Lenovo, which suggests the 3070 16GB exists, but it's just a waiting game. From my perspective at the moment, my plan is to purchase a 3080. While I've built an entirely new machine recently, I kept my GTX 970, which is obviously really old. And is a massive bottleneck for my system. And of course, when I get the 3080, I will post some comparison videos and frame rate stuff, but I think we can safely assume that there'll be a massive difference. That's all from me for now on this topic. I mean, I'll certainly post more information or videos when I get that information, but at the moment, as I say, it's just a pure waiting game to hear what AMD have on offer. But thanks very much for watching, guys. I hope that was in some way helpful and a bit more to the point. Please like, share, subscribe, and keep an eye out for more videos.